All right, we're back finally after 2 years. It feels like actually it's 2 years, I think, because they took off a whole year. Thrones Be the Game, House of Dragon, season 2, episode 1. Man, it's good to see y'all again, man. This is awesome. This is awesome.
Yes, good to see you guys. Glad to be back.
Nice to see y'all again.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go with you first, Bethany. What was your thoughts on this episode? For episode 1, what were your thoughts, your general thoughts, and then Scott, then I'll go and then we'll dive into
it. General thoughts, loved it. Tight storytelling, jumped right in, drew me in like I was never gone, right? So I loved it. 10 out of 10, 9.8 out of 10. So I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Scott.
All right, Scott.
Okay. I really enjoyed it. I think I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. I thought, particularly compared to some of the Star Wars stuff that we were kind of talking about off camera, the job that they did as far as really bringing you into their story and making you invest really initially to kind of get you excited about the season, kind of gripping you into the world. So they did an excellent job in that. Obviously we'll get to it, but the ending was, although it differs from what we thought it would be, I think the way that they treated it, I think they had some legitimate reasons in doing so, but I thought it was really ambitious the way that they did it and performed it. And I think that maybe they did so to play a couple angles that may differ from what, the source material is, but still it's pretty gripping. So, but I still, like I said, 8 out of 10, really enjoyed it, was really pleased with it. It was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I'm about to agree with both of y'all. It was, to me, I didn't know we was gonna get blood and cheese the first episode. I thought maybe third or fourth. They was like, we didn't left y'all. It's been a long time. We didn't left you. Let's go dive right into the chaos. I'm going 8 out of 10 as well, Scott. I loved it. It was a great way to get back into this world and back into understanding. And if you didn't get a recap before, it kind of set the table of like, okay, these are the things that happen to remind you, oh, this is what happened before. All right, I'm ready to go. So I love that way they was able to set that up. All right, let's jump on in. So we start off with basically with them going to the north. The Cregan Stark kind of thing. Hey man, I don't care nobody say the Starks are badasses, man. Yeah. It's just something about how gangster they walk around. They got on the mink coats. They just Jaehaerys is out there all cold, and he ain't got him all the way at the wall. He ain't even got him in regular Winterfell. He got him all at the wall, super cold. Right. He ain't never had no temperatures like that in his life, right. And he got him all the way there. If I'm gonna pledge my allegiance to you, I'm gonna take you all the way to the cold. That's what it felt like. Let me let you know. And it was interesting. And if you guys know, and some of the listeners may not know. But so Cregan Stark at this time, it just came out of Civil War with his own family. So he's already kind of in war mode already. He's like, look, man, I only got like these old cats is like in their 50s, but they rolling. I got to replenish my folks. You can get them too. And maybe I'll come back around after I see what's going on because we got to recoup and get everything together in House Stark. Because I just fought my uncle 2 weeks ago.
5 minutes ago. And did it feel like a breath of fresh air? Did it feel like coming home with the intro with Cregan, the voiceover, and it's like, hey, I thought at first it was Jon Stark, right? And it felt like coming home. And it was, I didn't expect that. It was very unexpected. And the dialect, the inflection and the speak, the verbiage, and when they were pulling the stones from the bag, and the gentleman pulled the black stone, right? He's like, it's not a punishment, it's an honor, right? And to watch them walk to the wall and to see the wall and to see Cregan, who we know to be as Cregan, and also Jaehaerys, I'm sorry, Rhaenyra's oldest, on the wall with him. It was like coming home. It was very unexpected. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean the narrate so again, I don't want to go too much into the Star Wars stuff, but really kind of to juxtapose where they told that story. So they start off with the narration, duty is sacrifice, and at first we think he's talking to us, the viewers. He's not. He's never talking to us at the entire time. But as they go through it, they show us how he's walking through what that sacrifice of duty is. And then he goes back, and then when he breaks it to the part where he says, this goes back farther than any oath or any word that was said, then now we get brought to the fact that he's not talking to us. He's talking to somebody who is there to try to elicit something from him. And that person who's trying to make that request isn't as keen as he is on how to either make that request or the gravity of the request he's asking. Because he made two things that were really snarky, that they were really subtle, but I really appreciate it. The first one, when he goes, when he says, well, yeah, at least you didn't come and threaten me with your dragon. This time, this is what our ancestors did. And the second time he says, do you think that they built a 700-foot wall of ice to keep out snow and savages?
Yep.
And so when he makes these points, now we could also argue that because the Raven comes and now he's notified of his brother's death, that may change the dynamic of it. But as laid out throughout the show, or at least that part of the show, it was clear that he was not going to acquiesce as to what the request was. He was going to provide something, but not at all what he came there to get. And whatever he was going to provide was going to be good enough. And I just thought that was really done really eloquently and really subtly. And it wasn't brutish or a show of force. It was just say, hey, I'm better at this diplomacy thing than you are, even though you don't see it yet. And so I thought that was really clever, and I really appreciated it.
So I have a question for you all with that, because they changed the way that people went to the wall over these years, because when we get to the present time in general Game of Thrones, that was only for people that wanted to volunteer to go, or you did something that somebody sent you there. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, in the timeline, when did it change where it was only violent? It was like going to the military. Like before it was a draft, and now it's volunteer. Are you in trouble?
Right.
It's the only reason that he went to the wall, because remember, the wall doesn't have anybody there anymore. Right. Maybe because everyone was like, well, we need these people back because we got so many battles going on. We need people back here fighting. I'm just wondering when that changed, where you didn't, because we never saw that before, where someone had to pick a stone to go. It was always like, you were in the wrong, go to the wall, or I'm the fifth brother and I have no ties to getting a crown or anything. I'm gonna just go to the wall.
Now, I mean, so I don't know a specific answer to your question. My speculation, I'm sure some of the viewers, Lord, check me on this, but when we get to the modern day or current day, then they are talking about how the wall is built of a lot of sub castles and sub posts that are there that had been manned traditionally that aren't manned any longer. So it could be that previously, during the age we're in now, they were making those selections in order to populate all these other castles and all these other posts that they over the time decided to just go to ruin and they kind of let fall apart. But as far as actual time when it changed, I don't have any idea actually when it changed.
Agreed. And it could be just due to war, right? This is a time of war. During the time where House of the Dragon is set versus the time where Game of Thrones is set, there's been constant war and death and the sacrifice that different houses have had to make and the loss that they've sustained. Is there a set timeline? No telling. Probably during House of the Dragon, at the beginning, there wasn't war at the time, right? So, and as it goes along, you've got houses that have to send sons to war, houses to war, daughters to war, queens that should have been the queen that never was, right? So just I think the the loss of status or available people during the time. Throughout the history of the storytelling, it had decreased the amount of folks that you could choose from willingly. And now you have to send folks unwillingly to war. or to the wall to man Castle Black and the East Watch and East Watch by the Bay, those things. So like Scott said, no telling when it happened, but probably a result of the fact that there was constant war and the reduction of available individuals to go man the wall.
Yeah, because it's just funny with it, because I was even thinking about even more that Cregan's looking at Jacaerys like, man, you don't even, I'm 21 and I've already been battling for 3 years. And you come in and ask me, have you even had a battle before? Are you got as a dragon, B? I've been out here on the front lines fighting my own family. So and I think another thing is like, do you know what this means to be having an internal family struggle of like, what do you know what this means to what you're going to have to do within this? You're going to be fighting your own family, basically. And I think Jacaerys and them don't know. They don't know, because you got to think, like Bethany said, they have not been in war for real. The Starks have had turnover for a while because they're so far away. People just don't deal with what they going on. But they always had some kind of struggle going on, and the Ironborn were always trying to mess with them as well. So they always had to be on.
Don't
team,
forget about them, right?
Yeah.
And that's alluded to later on in the episode.
Yeah,
it is.
It's alluded to very heavily in the episode. I forget his name, but when he's talking to Daemon, he's saying, hey, me and my brother took the same oath. And our oath was to protect the Targaryen family in its entirety. So what were we supposed to do when they betrayed each other and turned each other?
That was one of the twins, Eric, Eric, right? Yeah. One of the twins. So yeah. And real quick, I want to bring this up because maybe somebody heard it, maybe they did not. But the fact when Cregan and I'm sorry, am I saying his name correctly? Jacaerys. Jacaerys, right?
Yeah,
at the wall, and he's like, "What have you been fighting all this time?" He said, other things. Like he alluded to the fact that the former king and the queen had flown their dragons to the wall, and their dragons would not fly beyond the wall. He just alluded to it. Why not?
Didn't he say death? Didn't he say death?
And other things, right? Death and other things. So, we know now in present day that, the ice zombies, right? The Ice King and all of those things that happened in Game of Thrones.
The Walkers.
The White Walkers, right? The Night King, all of those things alluded to beyond the wall. He didn't mention it, but he's like, yeah, so the previous king and his queen flew here and their dragons wouldn't leave the wall. They wouldn't fly beyond the wall. And he's like, for what? He's like,
turns out that was the right call.
Yeah, what we know now.
Dragons
absolutely the right call, right?
I'm dragons.
That was Aegon. That was Aegon the First that you're talking about. Is the one that he flew there with his wives, his double wives, on their dragons out there to king. But that was one thing in the folklore. Right. Yeah, but it's one thing in the folklore with that, because they always said too that they met and they basically Aegon said, "Hey, I know about the White Walkers," and the North said, "Oh, you know about them? Okay, you got dragons. We cool. Whatever. You just don't mess with the North." And when it pops off, bring them dragons up. And I always thought that was the median they came up to. So it was never any like necessarily beef. It was like, you got dragons, we know it's White Walkers. You had a dream about White Walkers. We together. We got this. So as we go forward, Rhaenyra is trying to find her son. Daemon is on a warpath of like, hey, check this out. He just said, hey, to Rhaenyra, jump back on your dragon real quick. We finna ride out and go get Vhagar.
I'm sorry. Let's talk about it. Rhaenys, my queen, my forever queen. Rhaenys, she's exhausted. She's filthy. She, Meleys is her dragon, right? The dragon drops her off. She's getting off. She's weary. And, here comes Daemon. Hey, get back on the dragon. And she's like, yeah. No, not gonna do it.
But no, the plan. We're gonna go get Vhagar.
We've patrolled 100 miles on Dragonback. I've patrolled 100 miles on Dragonback. Meleese needs to gorge. She needs to rest, and so do I. And so Damon's going on about, oh no, and this, and she's like, yeah, but also too, I got word of my daughter's death, Lena's death, by Raven. Okay, right. It wasn't until I got her remains that I was able to grieve properly. Rhaenyra only got word of Lucerys's death by Raven. She's searching for his remains. She won't be back mentally, physically, emotionally until she finds his remains. That's how I identify with her. I was in that position, and also too, sir, you were my daughter's husband. So outside of the fact that you're my cousin by blood, I'm a mother first. And she's not going to rest. She's not going to come back until she's got veritable proof that her child is no longer walking among the living. And Damon's like, yeah, well, I order you. And she's like, yeah, would, but you were the king.
Yeah.
Love it. And it's her acknowledging that you may be the consort to the queen. You may be the queen's husband, but you're not the queen. And I, therefore, don't recognize any order that you give. And I'm tired. See you later.
And
love her.
And there's a couple of things happen. Okay, well, I saw it. I don't know if it's the truth or not, but what I got out of it was, Damon's not used to anyone really. He's used to being in deference to his brother, and then maybe his wife, but everyone else is in deference to him. So he's not used to anyone treating him like a peer or an equal. So that is off-putting to him initially. Secondly, the irony of him being so gung-ho about trying to get this done so his wife can get the throne, the rightful heir of the throne, when by all rights the person he's asking to do it was in the exact same situation and
was passed over.
Having this issue is because they passed her over as queen, years ago. And if she becomes queen, then none of the rest of this stuff happens. And so there's an irony for him to kind of stress to her how, had she made different decisions, we wouldn't be in the situation. When she's like, right, had I killed your brother, we wouldn't be in the situation either. The queen, and so it's like, and she's giving these looks like, I don't think you really thought these questions through and who you asking it to. So I thought that was a pretty cool scene. I thought it was it was pretty short, but I think there was a lot of emotion in it throughout this thing.
And it's a callback, right, to last season of when Meleese and Rhaenys burst from beneath the boards of the coronation of Aegon, where she had that opportunity because Daemon brought that up. He's like, hey, had you taken that shot when you could have, we wouldn't be here. But last season, she said, there will be war, but it's not my war to start. Right. So it was a harken back to last season. And it's also giving a window into who Rhaenys actually is. Like, hey, listen, I know I'm powerful in my own right. I'm a dragon rider. I'm a Targaryen. I'm married into the Valyrian family, who, the sea snake. I've got all of this inherent power myself. But I also understand that in this genre, in this day, this age, I have to know my place. My family is my family, right? But, and I'm an asset. I'm an ally, but I understand where I stand and I can't go beyond that. And it's an interesting juxtaposition to have as a woman, as the queen who never was, right? So
I think to your point, okay, I know her place. I don't necessarily feel comfortable necessarily.
I didn't say know her place, but understand her position.
Like what I'm saying though is that from my perspective, at least how I saw it, for her, she's like, well, I didn't make this. I didn't kill my family for the goal that I wanted for myself. I'm definitely not going to kill my family so someone else can get the crown or get the throne. And so to me, that seemed like a really reasonable compromise. Like, that's not my war to start. Right. I didn't start a very similar war on my own behalf. I'm definitely not going to start it on your behalf. You know, to me, it's like a very reasonable position, and I think that to me, that's what I heard her say when she was staring at Daemon. You know, with that 1,000-yard stare without saying anything. That's what I hear her saying. Like, well, yeah, I didn't pull that trigger for me. I'm definitely not pulling it for you. So,
right, because in her mind, to what she knows, she's lost 2 children. Right,
yeah.
She's lost her daughter and her son, and she didn't do all of this in retaliation for it. So it's a super interesting display of restraint.
Mm-hmm.
Restraint.
Oh, so hold on. They don't have any kids left, do they?
No children, to her knowledge, right?
Right. I mean,
we know that Rhaenyra is actually still out there, but to her knowledge, her only son and her only daughter are no longer with her. And so she's exercising great restraint because Rhaenyra, her middle-born baby got chomped out of the air by Aegon and Aemond, but Rhaenys, in her mind, what she knows to be true is that she has lost both her son and her daughter. And so she's exercising restraint, caution, and a bit of gamemanship, right? But still loyal to her house. She is, at her heart, at her core, still a Targaryen, married into the Valerian family. So.
Yeah, her niece is always the super
my girl,
man.
She's my avatar, right?
She's just a dope character, man. Mm-hmm. And then as we keep going forward, we go to King's Landing. Aegon II actually we go back to Aemond. Aemond is on this, on some, I did that. I killed him. This Big Daddy, now he's coming back almost like he just had, got a woman for the first time. Yeah, of course, it's me, Aemond. I do all this. Now he's a tactician. He knows all these different things of warfare. He's on top of the world. And what do y'all think about how Aemond kind of came back after this? Even though we know now that he accidentally did this. It was Vhagar that don't play. He was playing, and Vhagar don't play. She has 0 and 10. She don't have we just playing around, flying around.
I think he just rolled with it. I think he was less embarrassed by people thinking that he was impulsive than thinking he wasn't in control. And it was an accident. He had to apologize. Because, in real talk, what was the apology really going to do? No one would have necessarily believed it. You know what I'm saying? No one would have really believed you. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry I murdered your son and the dragon. That's not, I'm going to pay your deductible. I rear-ended your car while I was drunk. You know what I'm saying? So
I take all accountability. It's my bad.
Your story's not going to really do anything. You might as well have people in these streets think that you're a gangster versus, you just a goofy. So I think he just rocked with it. I liked how he handled himself in the small council scene. I liked how he handled himself in the small council scene. I like how, because they kind of alluded to it. When they alluded to it in that scene, then they kind of actually just said it out loud later on when he's talking to, Cuxpin. But basically, he has some contentious relationship with his mother, and we couldn't quite figure what it was. And then later on, he actually spells it out because he talks out. He talks with 2 tongues on both sides of her mouth, or something to that effect. So I really kind of like how he was listen. He was really kind of short and direct with her. It's the kind of thing that's as much as you can get away with saying with your mama without really getting your. There's only so much you can say. You answer questions directly, but really quickly, really abruptly. That's how you can really get away with. But you knew you wanted to be slick, you know what I'm saying? But she couldn't really call you on it. So, and then he felt afterwards. And I really liked it because, and again, they alluded to that later saying with him and Otto, he still, because remember last season, 2 years ago. Yeah, but last season, we saw how he really didn't think a lot of Aegon. He was kind of disappointed that Aegon was the heir, and he was like, this is how you're comporting yourselves. You're not really serious, this, that, and the other. And so it seems like he's at least attempted to reconcile however he feels about his brother's character and his ability to be king, in a way that makes sense for him. And so to me, I got that he presented himself more as a military leader and a more strategic.
I think he realized that he's more power not being king. That's what I think he's realizing. I get more respect by being out in these streets, being a shooter.
Yeah. So I agree with you. So that was my take on it. So.
Bethany?
Agree. The fact when he walked into the council and they're all basically like, what are you doing here? He's like, I was summoned. The king summoned me. And also, don't forget, I'm the king's brother. And did it give shades of Daemon showing up at the council with Viserys, right? I'm your brother. I've only ever tried to look out for you, but you only ever sent me away. So Aemond is a little less seasoned than Daemon was when we were introduced to him. But it's interesting how the show kind of glossed over the whole, I ate up my nephew. I feel bad about it, and kind of jumped right into the, so what you gonna do about it, phase. That was an interesting take. I'm not mad about it.
So they did a parade for him. They did a parade and a celebration for him in the books when he killed him.
Yes.
So,
but he did indicate remorse, right?
True.
He did indicate that. Listen, this isn't what I tried to. This is what I set out to do. I just wanted to scare him, basically. But you think about it in the books, and that was more the parade was Otto's dealing, right? Mm-hmm. That was his doing. That was his attempt to kind of change the narrative and switch it up. They may
still do it, though. I mean, they may still do it.
And they may still, but it's interesting. And I read the books, but I'm not a purist to the books. And I understand the timing and the pacing and all this has been 2 years. Hey, we've only got a really short period of time to tell this story. So I'm not mad about the jump, but I agree with Scott about I like how he presented himself to the council, and then how you kind of, as the episode went on, you saw him assert himself just a little bit more once he saw that his mother's grasp was slipping a little bit from him, and how his mother's trust in her own father, his grandfather, was kind of starting to sway. And so it's interesting to watch the nuance.
Agreed.
So as we move on, everybody talked about the council meeting. I don't know if you all realize something, and it's something I realized a little bit in the first season, and why this family has so much a chip on their shoulder. The Lannisters are new money. Money. They were getting disrespected. So now you realize why Tywin goes so hard and is like, no, we gotta rock this way. Then you realize why, because they had just got them gold mines and just found out that they are new money, and they had to fight for respect. You got to remember, Aegon is trying to make Twillen Lannister give a piggyback ride to a kid in the middle of a council meeting. So now, and then you realize why Tywin was so, and the Lannisters in general is so like, with the Lannisters never their debts. Like, we don't play around, because we was getting played 102 years before that y'all didn't know about, seeing this in this situation, and it made me thinking like, oh wow, the Lannisters were new money.
Yeah, they were new to all this regal. Kid, I'm about to give a piggyback ride. Just little kid, huh? Okay.
So is the air bothering you? Is the air bothering you?
Yeah. You think the Lannisters of today would have had any of that go down?
Tywin wouldn't roll with that. He wouldn't roll with that.
No.
And but also too, I just, as you know, I'm a mom, right? Yep. The fact that Aegon went to go get his son, to even tearing him away from his lesson or his culture or whatever he had going on, to bring him into the meetings, it's kind of signaled to me that that's something that his father never did for him, right? Yeah. So it was an interesting. He wanted his son to be a part of that.
What's up, y'all? This is RVS.
This is ROD, aka Rated R.
And we are the We Coming For You cast. And we talk about pro wrestling from a black dude's perspective. Tell them what they can expect on this here podcast.
Oh, we gonna give you all the raw and dirty and the everything black from AEW, WWE, Impact Wrestling, and any other wrestling in between. If you want your wrestling unfiltered, uncensored, and you want it raw, you need to subscribe to the We Come For You cast.
Right here on SOLC Network.
At an earlier age, maybe he didn't get that when his father was king. Now, did he absolutely let his son run amok during the meeting and play with the ball and but it's almost kind of like he was enjoying it. But the fact that he wanted his son to be there under whatever misguided notions he may have had indicated a departure from what he thought his father did or didn't do for him. So that was interesting. And I'll turn it over.
His father, he did that for Rhaenyra because she was his heir. And so when he came along, he was like, yeah, I checked the box to have a son, but he never intended for him to be the heir. So he didn't think it was valuable for him to learn how to rule. And so
thank you.
I'm sure, yes, I'm sure. So I'm sure that was him not knowing that, that probably weighs on him, but he probably thinks his father, and also his father was sick. He had a lot of stuff going on. And so there were other things that were happening. So in his head, he's probably justifying why his father didn't prepare him to rule, not thinking his father never intended for him to rule.
Never intended for him to rule, right? Thank you. Oh, you picked up on it.
Your mom was just a companion. His mom was supposed to be a companion as he got older. Yeah. This is like Julius Erving. I think Julius Erving had like a 13-year-old kid, 12 or 13-year-old kid. His older kids got to learn how to play basketball with him. That 13-year-old ain't out there hooping with Julius Erving.
Yeah, and also too, I felt like all of the scenes with Aegon were in the show, in the series, right? Not the book, but the show. It appeared as though he was trying to be a decent guy. Hey, okay, I'll give you your sheet back, and Otto was like, no, you're not, because the dragons need to eat. And hey, and so when they called his name Aegon the Magnanimous, and he was like, magnanimous, and all of his buddies, his frat boys, was like, well, we tried it. Maybe that's not going to be the word, but it seemed that in the show he was attempting to be a more giving, and he wanted to be fair to the common folk, the little folk or whatever. But he was thwarted by the realities of being a ruler, which is, hey, we all need to eat. These dragons need to eat. You want Vhagar to be out here protecting the city,
everything.
Your family. They got to eat. Hey, no, you're not giving them their sheep back. The dragons need the sheep. So it was just an interesting juxtaposition.
Well, but I think when we talk about our last part with the blood and cheese, I think the blood and cheese thing changes him. I'm thinking the way they're gonna show you that changes him, because that was common folk that went in there and did that. So maybe he doesn't care about because those weren't his enemy and soldiers. Those were common folks that went in there and did that to his son. And I wonder if that changes his mind state, where he's just like, oh, the comic folk, the ones that got me.
I saw something in one of the trailers that makes me believe they are going to address it in a way comparable they address it in the books. It's changed. It was a 2-second snapshot, but now having seen this episode, it could be in context to what happens in the book. So I'm actually pretty optimistic and hopeful that they do go down that path and talk about how it changed them. I will say one thing that again for the blood and cheese component. What's Aegon's wife's name? His sister.
Helena, yeah.
Helena had been talking about rats since like the middle of last season, and then obviously she did she talked about she's afraid of the rats in this episode, and I thought it was beautiful how they kind of baited us to give us they really only gave us 10-15 minutes. Like they covered that entire storyline in at best 20 minutes. But they've been teasing it all through last season, all through this episode. And I thought it was a really good way to extract a lot out of relatively very short amount of screen time. I thought it was a really efficient way to do so because they had you kind of on the tip of your tongue to see whether or not they're going to introduce a character earlier, give you more background, flesh them out a little bit more, and they really didn't. They just, it was like a page or two in the book, and they just basically they flushed it out in a way that it's done and it's over, and it's a event that leads to other events, but they did it in a way that it was fucking gripping. It
was. You think about it, we didn't know, like you said, it was only 2 pages. We don't know anything about Blood and Cheese. Yeah. We didn't even know that they got this whole thing where we didn't even know that who they were. Now we see that, he was a rat catcher, and then the other guy I guess he was on the Night's Watch with
the King's Guard. The gold cloak. He was a gold cloak.
Yeah. So we didn't even know who these were. And it's like, what happens to these people? Do they just fall back into the shadows? We never hear them again. Yeah. And they're just gone. There's Blood and Cheese. They put in their work and they dip out.
The fact that they worked that into the first episode was amazing. Yeah. I feel like the show has written out Aegon and Helena's youngest, Maelor. Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. All we know as viewers of the show are the twins. And if you notice, when Aegon went to go see them, and hey, where's my son? Send him to the council. It's just he went to go kind of speak to the twin girl. And he didn't quite touch her, but she shows phases and shades of being her mother's daughter. She was facing away from the camera. She's away from the action, and he didn't quite touch her. But then he immediately turns, hey, where's my son, Jaehaerys? And she's like, yeah, don't disturb him. He's in his lessons, and I'm afraid. And he's like, don't be afraid. We've got the dragons here. Nobody's going to attack us here. And Helena says, no, not of the dragons, but of the rats. And they're going to start trying to listen to Helena, the dragon dreamer, the dragon whisperer, whatever you'd like to call it. But she has the sight. Baby girl's got the sight, right? And I love the way they have written her in the show, that they say without saying that she's different, right? Yeah. She senses things, she sees things. She's intuitive, not only because she's a mother, but because she's a dragon dreamer. She's like a prophet almost, and they keep dismissing her. And he's like, my wife is ever an enduring mystery. Like, don't you remember when she said the beast beneath the boards and Meleese blew up from the basement with Rhaenys on top of her? You don't remember that, where we almost died, but you're going to keep ignoring me now? So I feel like that it's a very soft touch. And for those who are fans of the book and the show, you can kind of see that. And people are mad because the Blood and Cheese incident didn't, introduce the third child, or, the fact that Alicent really should have been with them. But it's building its own story, but kind of keeping true to the context. And I
like it
to who she really is.
I like it better because, practically speaking, it's HBO, that the interest in that third story and how it plays out in the book introduces some things that people are just not going to be comfortable with on a show that, it
was already bad. It was already
just to say that. So the things that they dropped out of that scene, I'm okay with them dropping out of that because
I'm fine with it.
It's just certain things. It's just certain topics you don't necessarily need to talk about on that show, and the incident as played out still drives her character to do the things or not do the things that we suspect that she's going to do or not do going forward. So it was still an appropriately motivating force. I understand what they're saying about Alicent not being there, but I don't know without those other events, I don't know if what Alicent being there gains them. And so again,
it actually proves more because she wasn't there. When you asked me, Scott, where was the Queen's Guard? Where was the King's Guard? And we found out.
That's the one change I didn't like. I thought that it should have been a little bit bloodier because her handmaiden in the book, she dies, right? He kills the handmaiden when he walks in. The woman, he says, "Oh, this is for the rats." She dies, and then and Helena has a couple guards there that die. I And what I thought when after it happens and she's running down the hall, she walks downstairs and she is startled. I thought they were going to show a couple dead guards there because it doesn't really make sense that she doesn't scream. Considering the events how they played out, once they're both enthralled enough that they're getting her son's head and she grabs her daughter, she's running down the hall. At a certain point, she should start screaming because there are guards in the castle, and so. It doesn't really make sense that she keeps her silent so much. And I get that she's been shock and PTSD, but having another dead guard there that they just maybe killed off screen kind of it makes it seem less suspicious because that although it was a really impactful scene in the moment, like when you go back on a rewatch, it is a really long time that the camera follows her down the hallway. She's not moving very quickly. She's kind of discombobulated and and kind of drunk from the emotion of it all. But considering how many guards were there when the king was just sitting there drinking with his friends on the Iron Throne to have in the royal quarters.
But that's where they were, right? But that also speaks to the character that has been developed for Helaena throughout season 1. She is a sensitive spirit. She does not react to stimuli the way that others do. She, in fact, couldn't tolerate her mother's touch in the first season. If you remember, at one point, Alicent was trying to comfort her, and she, kind of moved away from her mother's touch. So she experiences feeling differently. And I thought that the episode 1 of season 2 really portrayed how someone of her sensitivities might react in that instance. I know a lot of people think, oh, you should have screamed, you should have done something. No, she's acting in my opinion, totally within character of what we know her development to be.
No, I'm okay with her character.
I'm just putting that out there. So you're right. Yeah. Bethany, I would have screamed and shouted and grabbed my kid and caught up. But Helaena is, she already prophesied this.
No. I don't have a problem with how she reacted. I'm saying that when they showed her reaction, which I agree is in character for her character,
right?
It actually showed a very long walk that she's taken, and she's walking down 2 very long hallways. She's walking downstairs. She gets to I forgot what it's called, but kind of a landing area where she has to find a direction to go. And in none of that time, she doesn't see any servants.
Nobody.
Guards. And that's what I'm saying. Had they just introduced a couple dead bodies there, then it would make that walk seem more ominous and her to feel more threatened, but also kind of go, well, why is it how is this place? This place wasn't unguarded. They just killed the people who were guarding it. And also
too, don't forget, Larys got rid of by his affirmation, got rid of all who were loyal to Rhaenyra. So he had them killed if he thought that they had a semblance of loyalty to Rhaenyra. And remember at the beginning, he's like, I've replaced them all, and Alicent sent them away while she was bathing. And she's scrubbing her own self, and then she's like, yeah, leave me. She doesn't recognize anybody. She doesn't know anybody. So that could be part of it, right? But also, too, we the King's Guard and the Queen's Guard boss was over here piping down Alicent, so they didn't have no direction. Maybe they was over here messing around, drinking, whoring out with Aemond and all the lowlifes, right? So didn't have no direction.
If Aegon find out what he was doing instead of out there protecting his wife, it's gonna get ugly.
Oh man, say it.
Kristen Cole's I call him Bitchton Cole, but he is what he is. He's still trying to make Rhaenyra upset, and she don't even know he messing with her. He's still, I'm gonna make her feel that she ain't want to run away with me. She gonna feel this.
He is I call it. Can I say this online? He is the messiest bitches. The messiest bitches. We can talk about Larys. We can talk about Aemond. Aegon. Christian Cole is the messiest of bitches, and I didn't need to see all that, because remember he was trying to marry and wife up Rhaenyra in season 1. Hey, run away with me and raise orange orchards.
Let's go to Ethos.
Right, ethos and raise orange groves, and I love you, and she's like, please, no, not happening. But now to see him as Alicent's lapdog, it's funny to me. It's funny to me because you are the messiest of bitches.
Yeah, I mean, so Larys, I like Larys. I like Larys. I mean, he's kind of my guy. Cole's issue is that he's too sensitive to be like. You can't be a killer and sensitive. You know what I'm saying? Like he wants to be respected as a warrior, but he also real super sensitive in his feelings about everything that's going on with him and the chicks in his life. It's annoying. It's like, okay, dude, you piping down princesses and queens here. Like, what exactly is your complaint? And you're getting paid to do something. Like,
got a whole foot fetish.
You're not supposed to be having sex, period. You're not supposed to be having sex, period. You're a king guard. You're not supposed to be having sex, period.
Yeah, I'm saying
you all out of line.
Yeah, but you can
doing too much. # doing too much. Larys and Christian Cole done. And I'm sorry. Can I hop back just a little bit?
Keep going.
When Otto walked in on Aemond and Christian Cole, kind of drinking and kicking a few back and talking about it, and he was like, "Hold on, what y'all doing in here? What you talking about?" And Aemond says, "Words are wind. Words are wind. My mother speaks with two tongues." It was, in my opinion, indicative of the fact that he's aware of all the machinations that are going on behind the scenes. And he is now going to attempt to kind of establish himself, not as his brother's attack dog or lead dog, but the force, because without Vhagar, what do they have? They've got extra dragons. So cool. Okay. But Aemond knows it doesn't matter really what you say. I've got Vhagar. And as long as I'm kind of on board with what you guys got going on, then, the battle falls, the war falls in your favor. And remember how Otto dismissed Christian? Basically, he was like, what are you doing? Get to work,
Yeah.
And
I used to talk to the prince, go to take the station. And did you notice Aemond didn't turn around?
He didn't turn around.
His arms are up on the couch or the chair, whatever it is. He never turned around. He never turned around. He didn't flinch. He didn't look over his shoulder. He waited until his grandfather walked around to his line of sight, where Kristen hops immediately up. He stands at attention and hops up and showing their respective places in the hierarchy, which I thought was a really subtle thing that they did visually without fully addressing it. But it was really noticeable, particularly the second view. I thought it was a really cool thing that they did.
Sorry,
if you look at it, I don't thought he was going to be running this. I don't thought he was going to be running all this stuff. He thought, I'm just going to be the hand of the king. I'm basically going to be the king.
He thought it was going to be Tywin. He thought it was going to be a Tywin Lannister. He thought it was going to be Tywin.
But even Tywin was losing control of Joffrey, though, similar to how they losing control of Aegon and Aemond. Tywin was losing a little bit of handle on him. You remember he was killing prostitutes and stuff on the low and doing all kind of crazy stuff, and he didn't want him to
not
kill.
On the low. It was not on the low.
Yeah, not on the low. Yeah, and he didn't want him to kill Stark. He didn't. He told him like, "No, there's something to the wall. No, I'm gonna do something different." So everyone thinks they're gonna run someone. But when they get in there, it's like, oh no, I'm the king. Let me run this.
I forgot who said it in this episode. Is like, hey, Otto was the hand to the last two kings. He's not Larys. Your hand. Was that Larys? Yeah, he's like, he's not your hand. He was the hand to the last two kings. And talking to Aegon, right? And he was planting the seed, right? He was planting the seed for Aegon to at some point be like, you know what, you're right. He's no friend to me. Yeah, that's my grandfather, but also to let me see what havoc I can wreak, right? Let's see what I can get popping out here. I thought it was very clever.
I like Larys. Larys is everybody boy while you there. and then when you're not, it's every man for themselves.
With a foot fetish. As long as you got pretty feet, you got his attention. Let's go.
Hey, life's too short not to know what turns you on.
Do what you do.
It's like, it is what it is, ma. It is what it is.
All right, let's turn back to Dragonstone. Rhaenyra finally finds her son, comes back. One emotional scene when Jacaerys comes back and is like, he'd already got the note and he's just trying to just run his report and he just couldn't finish it up, but the one when he said, but the veil, it needs to have a dragon. I was like, so like, is somebody stated as his dragon or they just drop them off? Because some of them dragons is wild. And I don't know, like somebody need to stay with some of these dragons. Like, how are we gonna run this with this protecting the veil?
Man, I'll say one thing and I'll turn it over to Scott. The fact that Rhaenyra only spoke 4 words this entire episode is, I want Aemond Targaryen. I want him. But the scene of her showing up on the beach, finding the remains of Lucerys and Arax, and her literally leaping off of Syrax and her grieving, and Syrax also mourning the death of Lucerys, but also of Arax, right? Was Arax Syrax's child? I'm sorry, I may have that mixed up. Yeah. But the dragons grieve too.
Yep.
The dragons grieve too. And the fact that she only spoke 4 words this entire episode, super powerful, and that her son was attempting to bring news from his travels to the north to the wall with, hey, we've got this support, we've got that support, but also grieving his baby brother and the emotion between the two of them. And she just hugs him up, and so powerful, so moving. I yield.
Again, I'm not going to reference the other show, but in comparison to it, it was the show me versus tell me. And so she had a ton of screen time, but like to your point, she only said 4 words. But her lack of speaking, the actress had to carry a lot of weight emotionally conveying, what she was going through, of showing her grief, showing her disillusionment, and all those things. And then that simple task became too difficult for them both to continue to put up the pretense to fight through it. And it just wound up being really powerful. And I think a lot of times writers can get to a position where they feel they have to dumb down things for the audience. But, I believe that most writers can trust the audience a little bit more with more complicated and more nuanced types of relationships and emotions. You already dropped the bomb. Her child is dead. Her dragon's dead. She's already going through the loss of her father pretty recently, and also the loss of her title and her station. She's dealing with a lot. We were there. We watched it, so you can trust us to be able to understand that she is processing grief, on several different ways and several different levels. And by her being unable to put it into words, it says all we really need to know, because when she finally formulated words, it was, the person I blame for this pain, I want punished. And so, again, I just shout out to the writers. Just shout out to the writers.
And the actors, because that was so. She carried an episode with 4 words, 4, and it harkens back to at the beginning when Rhaenys was basically telling Daemon, I'm not here for none of your bullshit. Like, I'm a mother. I know what she's going through. You don't know what she's going through, but I know what she's going through. And it's not going to be until, because he said, well, she's been away for days. She hasn't come back. She's unprotected. She didn't take any protection with her. And Rhaenys was like, she has to settle it within her spirit. She's got to settle it within her soul to find visual proof that her child is gone, and she'll be out there as long as it takes, and until she finds it, then this is what we're going to do. I'm going to patrol with Meleys. You can order me to the skies. I'm not going to do it, but until my queen orders me to do something, then I'll do something.
But again, to your point, referencing that scene, they have a reliable narrator tell us things about a different character from a perspective that we believe that we saw them go through, and we believe that they are an expert on this field. So then they use that opportunity to narratively tell us something about Rhaenyra without having Rhaenyra say it, but then use that opportunity to both expand on Daemon's and Rhaenys's characters. It built on their relationship. It shows contention between them. It shows, that they're both, more peers than one in deference to each other. That she's not afraid of him. That he thinks that she should be, or she should listen to him. So they communicate all these things about 3 different characters. One never says a word about it, and then they flush out 2 different characters and their relationship in an argument while informing you about the third. It's just really good writing. Like, it's just really, really good
beautifully written, and it's
acted well too.
What do you say, Scott? It's not lazy storytelling.
Yeah,
it's trusting the viewers with what we already know, right? Versus what we think is going to happen, but allowing us to come to the conclusion organically. It was beautifully written. If they don't get an award for that for episode 1, then I'm a monkey's uncle, and we should just stop this podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just, and that's the thing. I had a couple issues with the episode. Nothing really major, but what wasn't the issue is how well they communicated the things they wanted to communicate. There are a couple of things that I didn't think they should have communicated, or they could have communicated in a way that was more toward my liking. But I don't think they did anything wrong. It's just not the way I would have taken it. But I feel like I know what the writers were trying to get us to understand and communicate from start to finish in that episode. And whether I agree with all the decisions, like, not having enough dead bodies there and at the end in the blood and cheese scenes, or, some other components we talked about, the unnecessary component of Aegon complaining about Aemond, to his friends for no reason, because he didn't understand what magnanimous meant. Seemed a little bit superfluous for me, but again, no, not a huge deal. It's not a huge deal, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't a huge deal. But I believe that I understood how the writers led the breadcrumbs for the actual viewers to say, hey, listen, these are the things that are important. And whether you see they're important now, when it does become important, you're going to be able to call back this conversation, this scene, this reaction, the way that they were speaking. So it'll have its impact when it's decided to. And I just thought that was a really great job, a really great writing job. Again, the actors, the actors are all, really excellent actors. I've been following Matt Smith ever since he was Doctor Who. So, I'm always a fan. But I just thought the writing was great.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what do you guys think we're going to see in this season overall? Like, where are we going? You all think for the rest of this season?
I suspend judgment because the fact that we got blood and cheese in episode 1 has completely upended my timeline of what I thought was going to happen. I suspend judgment, and I cannot wait to see it kind of unfold. So that's me.
I think we're going to get
Scott.
I think we're going to get an episode and a half of Helaena and Aegon melting down, and then the repercussions of their meltdown. So I think that they gave us the inciting act in episode 1. I think episode 2, maybe the first half, 3/4 of it, is going to be the emotional, the emotional outbreak or breakdown of Helaena and Aegon, and then they're going to make some decisions that may or may not seem rash, and it's going to. So episodes 2 and 3 are going to be how they respond to it, both emotionally and actually tactically. And so I think that's what the next 2 episodes are going to be. I don't want to speculate as to what they are, because I'm going to be speculating mostly on what is in the book versus what I think the story writers are going to do. I do think they're going to deviate from the book again. But I do think that there are a couple scenes that I can think of in the book that I'm pretty sure that they're going to have in there. I'd be really interested to see, and this is why I say that, because I'd be really interested to see how the writers handle blood and cheese going here on out. Because according to episode 1, they're supposed to be meeting Daemon at not Harkin, that's Doom.
Harrenhal.
Harrenhal. Thank you. yes, they're supposed to be to make Harrenhal, but we don't have any notion at this point that Daemon has any control of Harrenhal, right? I don't think that, that they mentioned that. If they did, I missed it. So I'd be interested to see how they're handling that, because they didn't introduce it. That's a place Daemon could reasonably be, right? I mean, to my knowledge, they're all at Dragonstone and no place else.
Right.
So
Dragonstone. Correct. You're right. Go ahead.
So I'd be interested to see how they handle that component. And so going forward, that's why I think the next 2 episodes going to be more emotionally how Aegon and Helaena handle it, because I don't think they've set up enough for Harrenhal yet. At this point in time in the story, and so they have to evolve that in the next episode or 2.
Can I say one thing and then I'm done? Can we call it the cloak that Daemon dons every time bad shit happens? Can we call it the murder cloak? The murder cloak. Every time he dons the murder cloak, is something bad is going to happen. And also too, in the books, it doesn't really expressly stated in the show, but how the gold cloaks are loyal to Daemon. When he showed up with the murder cloak on, and he was like, "Yeah, I heard you hate the High Towers." The dude was like, "Yeah, fuck the High Towers." Yeah. It doesn't matter who's in power, because Daemon is the one who gave them the gold cloaks. Before he donned them with those with the cloaks, they were laughed at. They were ridiculed. He turned the King's Guard into the King's Guard, right? Which is why the gentleman from season 1, after Viserys died, and they're trying to, usurp power and figure it out in the council. The captain of the King's Guard, he rips his cloak off. He was like, "I am the captain of the King's Guard, and seeing that there is no king, I have no place here." So after Christian Cole bashed the elder's head in on the table, and he walked away, they are effectively loyal to Daemon. So whenever he shows up with the murder cloak and a pocket full of money, bad things happen. Bad things happen.
I live text you. Fuck the
High Towers, right?
My question is with that, Bethany. So do they not know that the gold cloaks are his people? Why don't they just get a whole new section? Do they not know that those is folks?
I think that they haven't considered it. Right? It's not that they don't know; it's that they haven't considered that loyalty. You remember Larys got rid of all the ladies in waiting or the guards to the royal family who he felt were loyal to Rhaenyra. They haven't yet turned that eye to the King's Guard and the gold cloaks, because it hasn't occurred to them yet. But it should.
Who would know? I mean, who would know? The only person who could possibly even have that information is Otto, but Otto could have assumed that the loyalty was to the
crown. The crown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's no one that is in the inner circle enough to have the context in order to know that.
Viserys is gone. Viserys could have told him. Daemon could have told him, but it's something he's using to his advantage.
Rhaenyra could have told him.
Rhaenyra could have told him. Rhaenys could have told him. Literally anybody who's not a High Tower. And if Christian had been paying attention, instead of getting, blowing the brains out the back out of the Dowager Queen, he could have told him, because Daemon made him too, right? So it's interesting.
Dang, I didn't even think about that. And it's basically just got constant spies there if he needs them.
Yeah.
And spies who have incredible levels of access.
Incredible levels. Yep. Because if they had been on, if Christian Cole had been on his job, maybe, well, as the showrunners tell it, maybe the King's heir, Jaehaerys, could have been spared, because he'd have had people on watch, but he was too busy, having Allison ride the thunder and the lightning. It's cool.
I mean, but also they accidentally stumbled upon this situation too, which was funny. The way it was like, oh, man, let's just get up out of here. Oh, there goes sun right there. Let's just go get this. We can get up out of here and get our check.
And so, I'm sorry. One more thing, then I'll be done for
Yeah,
real.
yeah, yeah. Keep going. We can
The fact that Helena, who shirked her mother's embrace last season, the fact that she grabbed up her remaining baby and ran to her mother's rooms that was unguarded speaks a lot. It speaks volumes. She didn't want to be touched by her mother. She didn't want to be touched by anybody. She's always kind of aloof, standing a step away. The fact that she grabbed up her baby and ran to where she thought she could get some help, and that happened to be her mother's room. That's very, very telling. Very, very telling for her.
And that the dude that's supposed to been guarding you is in this room with your mom. Knocking her boots.
And she may not have even noticed it. Like, she just got to the place where she thought she was safe. Maybe she'll process it, doubt it. But I found it interesting because I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Ain't you supposed to be on duty? Cole?
Not on duty. Literally not on duty.
Also, it was kind of terrifying. I mean, not terrifying, but kind of heartbreaking when Allison asked Helena, "What are you doing now?" She goes, "They killed the boy."
They killed the boy.
It was just super.
Very detached.
Exactly.
Killed the boy.
Yeah,
I'm holding my daughter. You don't see my daughter's twin. They killed the boy, but you hopping off the dick. I'm just saying.
It was
man, it was. It was heartbreaking to actually see it. It was
really
heartbreaking.
Yeah, like I said, it was.
All right, so we got back to the next season.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just gonna say, just
no. Go ahead. You good?
A final component was just as different as that was from what was in the book. Actually seeing it was still kind of hard to watch. So I'm glad they didn't do what was in the book.
Me too. Same. Because you could hear it. Even what I heard, the audio of hearing that. Yeah, it was a lot for me. And upon my second viewing, I was like, yeah, I actually muted the TV during that point in time. It was that bad for me. I was like, yeah, that's traumatic. She's got PTSD for sure. Sure. I got PTSD. It wasn't even a real baby. It wasn't my baby. So,
So like I said, that was a change I was completely fine with. So I'm sorry, D, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just wrapping this up. We finna get back at it. We're glad to see everybody. We'll be back next week with episode 2. Peace.